Hey friends, welcome back. Today's story isn't your typical fairy tale. This is a haunting reimagining of Snow White, where love demands sacrifice, the mirror hides secrets, and darkness runs deeper than magic. So buckle up, because this twisted tale is about to begin. The story begins centuries ago. One cold, quiet night, we see a grand castle, where a noble king lives with his pregnant queen, loyal guards, a skilled huntsman named Kaiser, and a few trusted handmaidens. The night may have seemed calm, but something dark was brewing in the shadows. Suddenly, an evil witch appears, silently slaughtering the outer guards one by one. With help from the huntsman Kaiser, who secretly betrays the king, she enters the castle. Inside, she casts a wicked spell into the ears of the queen's handmaidens. The curse is horrifying. Their bodies begin to rot from the inside, and they vomit swarms of insects as they collapse and die. Now, with no one left to stop her, the witch marches straight into the queen's chambers. There, she stabs the pregnant queen with a poisoned blade, attempting to end her life. Just then, other guards storm in and manage to distract the witch. The king rushes his injured queen upstairs to the castle medics, but it's too late. The poison is already spreading. The healer reveals that the venom is so powerful it will surely kill the queen, and if they waste any time, the child won't survive either. As tears roll down her cheeks, the queen begs the king to do whatever it takes to save their child. The king, shattered by her pain, somehow holds himself together, for her and for their unborn child. With her final moments approaching, the queen looks out the window. Snow is falling gently. She smiles, saying snow is a symbol of peace. Then, she turns to her loyal huntsman Gunnar and makes him promise, "Raise my child like your own. Protect her at all costs." Gunnar swears to fulfill that promise. Finally, the queen tells the king to leave. She doesn't want her death to be his last memory of her. The heartbroken king walks out, just as she gives birth to a beautiful baby girl, her skin as white as snow. With her final breath, the queen names her daughter Snow White, and then she dies. Meanwhile, the evil witch is still killing anyone who stands in her way. A brave dwarf guard tries to stop her, stabbing her with a sharp bone protruding from his own broken arm. He wounds her, but not fatally. Furious, the witch stabs him repeatedly, leaving him barely alive, and disappears into the night. Years pass, 15 or 16 to be exact. Snow White is now a young woman, kind, pure-hearted, and full of life. Despite being a princess, she lives among the common folk, playing with children, helping villagers, and enjoying festivals. At one such festival, she sneaks into a live performance, laughing and clapping like everyone else. Snow White secretly has a crush on Prince Florizel from a neighboring dynasty, and she has for years, but she's too shy to talk to him. She looks away whenever he's near. Her friends constantly push her to be brave and go talk to him, but she just can't. What she doesn't know is that Prince Florizel likes her too. Yet, even he hesitates to speak his heart, but that's when we finally meet Snow White's evil stepmother, the wicked queen who has hated her since childhood. Why? Because Snow White is beautiful, too beautiful, loved by everyone, always smiling, always adored, and the queen couldn't stand it. She believed no one could be more beautiful than her, not even Snow White. To maintain her twisted sense of beauty, the queen relied on dark magic. She captured innocent women and used them as test subjects, mixing toxic potions, cursed mixtures, and unholy spells in the name of beauty experiments. Their skin burned, blistered, and rotted, but no one dared stop her. She was less of a queen and more of a mad scientist obsessed with eternal youth. She even had a magical mirror that constantly manipulated her, feeding her lies, pushing her deeper into madness, and justifying every cruel act she committed. One day, the queen performs a ritual so intense, she drains her own blood in hopes of becoming more powerful. Weakened, she sends her huntsman to fetch another girl for her next experiment, this time one of Snow White's closest friends. Meanwhile, outside, Snow White's friends give her one final push to talk to Prince Florizel. On the way, she helps a little boy pick out a toy for his sick mother. When she learns the family can't afford treatment, she secretly slips them a few coins to help. Prince Florizel watches this from a distance, impressed by her kindness. And finally, the two speak. They confess their feelings, soft, nervous, and honest. Snow White admits she's cared for him for a long time. and Prince Florizel? He says he's felt the same all along. Later, the two of them sneak away to a quiet place Snow White's father once took her, somewhere she could still feel her mother's presence. But far from them, her friends are suddenly attacked by huntsmen. One girl is captured, and her scream echoes through the woods. Snow White and Florizel rush to help, only to come face to face with the attacker. It's Kaiser, the same huntsman who once helped the evil witch infiltrate the castle years ago. And then, he speaks. He tells Snow White that the queen should have killed her the same night she murdered her mother. Snow White was never meant to survive. He takes the captured girl with him and orders the other huntsmen to kill Snow White and Florizel on the spot. The fight breaks out. Snow White and Florizel barely escape the guards. In the chaos, Snow White flees into the dark forest with one of her friends, until they are found by Gunnar, the loyal huntsman who once made a promise to protect her. He gives her a weapon, an ancient dagger carved from a dwarf's bone once belonging to her father. "This will protect you," he says. Meanwhile, Florizel escapes and rushes to the queen's castle to ask for help, but the queen doesn't listen. Instead, she coldly orders Gunnar to bring Snow White back, alive. Because now, the queen sees her as a threat to her power, to her throne. We now see Snow White and her friend wandering deeper into the dark forest. Suddenly, tree-like monsters emerge from the shadows and surround them. Before they can escape, one of the creatures grabs Snow White's friend and devours her alive. Terrified, Snow White freezes, but something strange happens. The monsters stop. They back away. Why? They're afraid of the dagger she carries, the same one given to her by Gunnar, forged from dwarf bone and once owned by her father. The monsters vanish into the woods, leaving her unharmed. Meanwhile, Prince Florizel rallies his people and friends and enters the forest in search of Snow White. And if you've heard the old Snow White tale before, you already know. This forest is no ordinary place. It's dangerous, dark, alive. Back at the castle, the queen is performing her gruesome rituals. She orders Snow White's friend, now lifeless, to be cut into pieces for future experiments. Dark magic, witchcraft, whatever horrors she has planned next. She turns once again to her enchanted mirror for guidance. The mirror reminds her that she doesn't just envy Snow White. She hates her. But the queen, still clinging to control, insists that she cannot kill Snow White yet. Not until she secures a second kingdom. Not until she has something to replace what Snow White possesses. To her, Snow White is meaningless. But the mirror sees the truth. It reveals that Snow White carries something far greater, a pure soul, a kind heart, and an inner light the queen can never have. That light is the very power the queen desires. If she wants to claim beauty, strength, and control, she must take it all from Snow White, her bloodline, her beauty, and her life. Meanwhile, back in the forest, royal guards finally catch up to Snow White. They knock her unconscious and begin dragging her back. But just then, 6 dwarfs and a giant arrive. The leader steps forward and tells the guards, "Your queen holds no power here. This forest doesn't belong to her." With that, they fight. The dwarves and the giant take down every guard, except one. They leave him alive on purpose to send a message. "Go back," they say. "Tell your queen. She rules nothing here." The dwarves take Snow White to their hidden home deep within the forest. When she regains consciousness, she finds herself surrounded by strangers who are unsure of her identity. They are cautious, even suspicious, but something shifts when they see the dagger she carries. One of the dwarves recognizes it immediately. It once belonged to the king himself. Then, a healer named Arsta steps forward. She reveals a long-buried truth. She was the one who treated the queen the night Snow White was born. The queen didn't die from childbirth. She died from a poisoned blade, stabbed by a witch. We now learn a heartbreaking truth. All those dwarves once lived in the same kingdom as Snow White, but everything changed when the evil queen rose to power. After the death of Snow White's mother, her father, the king, tried to protect the kingdom, but the witch eliminated him too, using her dark magic to seize the throne. Once in control, she imprisoned, tortured, and murdered the dwarves, leaving only a handful alive. The survivors now live hidden in the forest, clinging to each other like a family. Each one introduces themselves. Dozer, the guard dwarf we saw earlier, followed by Arsta, Bo, Sunny, Grimwald, Tiny, and Pollen. Snow White feels safe among them. But meanwhile, on the other side, the evil queen receives a message from the dwarf guard and reacts with cruelty. She has the guard's hand chopped off just to send a message back to Dozer and the others. She's also burning with jealousy over Gunnar's girlfriend. In a brutal act, she has all the girl's teeth ripped out and locks her away. Back at the cottage, Snow White bonds with Dozer and the rest. She helps clean the place, and her gentle nature wins everyone over. But their peace is short-lived. Strange noises echo through the forest. The dwarves flee to hide. At the same time, Prince and his men arrive in the forest, searching for Snow White. Instead, they discover the horrifying remains of her friend, the one devoured by the tree-like monsters. Fear sets in. They worry Snow White may have met the same fate. The child Snow White had once gifted toys to also returns, wanting to help her, but before anyone can react, the dream monsters strike, sparking a brutal battle against the prince and his men. Just then, Dozer and the remaining dwarfs arrive, jumping into the fight to protect everyone. Once the battle ends, Florizel steps forward. He reveals his true mission, to save Snow White, but the little boy suddenly goes missing. They search everywhere, but he's nowhere to be found. Back at the castle, the queen gathers strands of hair and personal belongings from Snow White's dead friend. With them, she casts a dark spell, creating a poisoned apple that will trap Snow White in eternal sleep. Then comes the shocking twist. The queen reveals her true form. She's not who she appeared to be. She is the same witch we saw at the beginning, the one who tricked her way into power with a fake identity. She ventures into the forest in disguise, and along the way, runs into the lost child. He unknowingly tells her where Snow White had passed through, and she kills him to erase the trail. Soon she arrives at the dwarf's home. Snow White sees her, and, unaware of her identity, tries to help her. The witch uses this moment to manipulate her, offering the cursed apple in exchange for help. Snow White refuses, so the witch forces the apple into her mouth. Moments later, Snow White collapses, and as she falls into unconsciousness, she sees something horrifying in the basket beside her, the severed head of her dead friend. Meanwhile, the witch takes Snow White with her. Back at the dwarves' cottage, Florizel and the others finally return home, only to learn the shocking truth. They reveal something dark about the queen. She had been poisoned with the very same venom that now threatens Snow White. A deadly curse, one that had just one antidote, a life for a life. The queen had made a sacrifice. She absorbed the poison into her own body so that Snow White could live. That's how Snow White was saved at birth. But just then, we see the evil queen kill another one of Snow White's friends, draining her beauty and life force for herself. Obsessed, the queen even tries to wear Snow White's sandal, but it doesn't fit. So in a horrifying move, she cuts off her own toe, desperate to become Snow White, or better than her. She had become twisted with jealousy. Everyone admired Snow White, but the queen forgot one thing. True beauty needs a pure heart, and hers was pitch black. Then, the mirror speaks again. It tells her to kill Snow White and eat her heart. Only then would she gain true power, eternal youth, and unmatched beauty. Soon, we see the queen harvesting from the dead girls, taking their teeth, nails, hair, even eyebrows, and attaching them to herself. But she needed one final thing, a younger hand, so she draws blood from Snow White too. Meanwhile, Dozer and his army storm the castle. Royal guards try to stop them, but a brutal battle breaks out. Florizel's men join the fight, and together they breach the castle walls. Tragically, Tiny the Giant falls in battle, and now everyone storms into the queen's chamber. There, the evil witch declares that no one can stop her now. She raises her blade, ready to strike Snow White, but in a split second, one of the dwarves jumps in front, shielding her from the blow. He dies, saving her life. In rage, the queen casts a spell on the dwarves, making them powerless within the castle. Seizing the chance, Florizel grabs Snow White and escapes into the forest. Florizel takes Snow White back to the same sacred spot where he had first brought her. With a gentle kiss, he gives her the antidote to the poison, a sacrifice that ultimately takes his own life. But it works. Snow White opens her eyes, alive. Suddenly, a huntsman appears and tries to kill her, but she quickly overpowers him and ends his life instead. Snow White returns to the castle and confronts the queen. She tells her to stop the bloodshed once and for all. If it's her heart the queen wants, she's willing to give it. Gunnar steps in, saying he'll take care of it. Shockingly, He stabs Snow White and presents her heart to the queen, who devours it without hesitation. But here's the twist. That wasn't her heart. Gunnar had only pretended to stab Snow White. It was actually the poisoned apple, disguised. Realizing she's been tricked, the furious queen loses control and brutally tears Gunnar apart. As the evil witch prepares to cast a deadly spell on Snow White, Pollen the dwarf holds up the mirror in front of her, and the spell backfires, hitting the witch herself. The other dwarves rush in, tie her down, and cut her cursed skin, stripping her of her powers. Snow White walks up to her and says, "You're not good. You'll never be a queen. You're not beautiful, because beauty comes from within." Even the magic mirror, once loyal to the witch, turns on her and mocks her. Powerless and broken, the evil witch begins to fade away, slowly and painfully. In the final scene, Snow White is crowned queen. Peace is restored in the kingdom. The dwarves, the people, all live together in harmony and joy. Later, she visits Florizel's resting place, the place where he made the ultimate sacrifice. She often comes here to remember her true love. And just like that, boom, the story of Snow White comes to an end. So friends, this was the tale of the death of Snow White, a simple yet powerful retelling of a timeless legend. I hope you enjoyed it. It may not be packed with jump scares, but the dark magic, evil witchcraft, and emotional twists bring just the right touch of horror. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you soon with another chilling story. Until then, stay spooky.